Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 53 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So everybody, welcome to episode 53. Been getting some, as I always, been getting some great emails through people loving the podcast episode. So really happy, guys, that you're loving it. It's really good, and if you can keep on putting in great reviews on our Facebook page and on our iTunes, that'd be fantastic. So we can get this information out to more and more people. And also, this is why we've been getting fantastic. This is why we're getting more people in the free 4-day gut revival group, because more people are knowing about it, which is brilliant. So we can actually affect more lives, which I love. So if you're not familiar with our free 4-day gut revival, is over at www.reviveyourself.co. You can sign up for that. Anyone with any chronic issues, this is going to be a game changer, because your gut is it's extremely essential to your overall health. Anyway, moving on to today's episode. I mean, last week's one, brilliant, with Dr. Patrick Vickers, all about how to reverse advanced disease, which was fantastic. And today we've got Jason Christoph back on, and we're diving deep into a lot of controversial topics. We go into circumcision, we go into the birth pill, we go into why people are mainly in their limbic brains, which is our reptile brain. We go into the mass shootings in America, etc. So it's a great episode. So without further ado, here he is. Here's Jason. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. So Jason, welcome back to the show. How are you today, mate?
Thank you for having me back, Ryan. I appreciate that. I hope the listeners enjoyed a little bit what we discussed last time.
Yeah, no, they did. I mean, judging by, I know you posted a couple of times, got some really good comments on it, actually, and even the people that don't always agree, it's always good just to keep their mind open and keep them aware that, sometimes what they're thinking, the opposite could be true, So even if not everyone agrees with us, it's just, even if we can affect change in one person, it's great, right? But everything we discussed, it was a really good interview, really interesting interview, and it's some of the things I actually want to go a little bit deeper on today. How many? I'm trying to think. Generally, in a day, how many times do you usually post on Facebook? Anyone who's not following Jason, by the way, guys, you have to follow him on Facebook, Jason Christoph. I think you're maxed out for friends right now, right?
Maxed out for friends, but in the Facebook law dictates that anybody can follow. I'm not too sure why they limit friends at 5,000. I'm sure one day in the future they'll monetize that, and you'll have to pay to go beyond that. I can see that's what's going on with the 5,000 person limit on friends on a personal page.
Right, yeah. So if you can't, so if you maybe have to add a friend request, but you can follow you, and I'd say it's one of the people. If you haven't following Jason, follow him, Jason Christoph. Is that it? Just for Facebook / Jason Christoph.
Yeah, there's a couple different Facebook pages. A couple I've shut down. So the primary page is Jason Christoph, and the profile picture is one of my wife and my daughter on a sailboat, if they're looking for the right one. And I do post. To answer the original question, I do post probably 8 to 10 times a day, sometimes rehashing older articles out of my article archive, or just kind of getting off my chest what needs to be removed, because the pressure is so high in our society. You really need a venting mechanism, because I don't drink alcohol, I don't do any drugs, I don't sedate in any way. So if you're going to be clean and healthy, which is the only way to get out of this control grid, you're going to have to find some sort of other venting mechanism, because it's very stressful to live unsedated and undistracted inside this society. And that's what all the alcohol and drugs and sports are for, is to keep people away from understanding what exactly is going on down here on the human farm.
Yeah, I mean, it is something they always say about venting. It's that energy, right? If you don't get rid of it, it's a toxic energy. So even people might know in sort of the broken world, and they might have a boxing bag in there, so they get stressed and go and hit a bag. It's something that you need to get rid of that energy. While there's other things obviously you can do, like qigong, tai chi, things like that, all about energy, internal energy. And a lot of people carry a lot of negative energy around. They don't get rid of it, and that's dark matter that can cause serious health issues, right? I mean, the metaphysical is a big part that people don't really look into and don't really understand, but it's something they really need to.
That's guaranteed, Ryan. I mean, Michael Tessarion, I know you've mentioned him before, and so do I. He reviews what happens when you live out sort of an immoral and unethical life. He's done a great talk called The Guilt Complex. So if people aren't living truth, they will always have this sort of burning inside of them, this stress building up, and they don't really know where it's coming from or what to do with it. And then if they keep living out these immoral existences, they will turn to alcohol, they'll turn to the office love affair, they'll turn to pornography, they'll turn to marijuana, they'll turn to being a sports fan and turning their basement into a man cave. And they just don't really know what to do with this energy. And this is called the guilt complex, where they do absolutely everything in their power to sedate and distract and sort of tranquilize themselves from the real work and the real changes they have to be doing. The average person today is simply caught in a permanent childhood and sort of refuses to take the natural rite of passage from a child to an adult and to become a true adult member of the tribe. And of course, if you resist that and you inhibit that rite of passage to live in a permanent childhood where you're living out lies on a daily basis, you're going to develop this guilt complex. And that's what you see today in the society: the obesity, the drug addiction, the fentanyl problem, the alcohol addiction, the growing of the sports arenas, and the growing of how much these sports celebrities are getting paid. Is you're just seeing people not understanding that they're venting, they're living out lies and using this as sort of like a handrail or a guide rail to kind of drag themselves along in their lives.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's weird you say that being eternally young. It's something that Jordan Peterson talks about, actually. People being children. I mean, people think that we're like one of the most advanced societies, etc. But I don't know. Do you know John Taylor Gatto at all?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah. I mean, he shows people like. I mean, they had kings back in the day, I think 8 years old, navigating their way across oceans and doing all sorts, and we're far behind that. But these are lots of the work that people that, I don't know if you're laughing there at Jordan Peterson, right? But I think I love Jordan Peterson. I think he's brilliant. He's another one. He's someone who speaks his truth, which I really appreciate from someone. But there's lots of people out there. There's lots of research out there that we're sort of, they have spent a lot of money or put a lot of effort into hiding from us, so that you don't know. And just quickly, when you were talking there about sports, because I see you post quite a lot, Jason, about how sports are, a way of sort of controlling masses or giving us other things to concentrate rather than the main topics. Are you then against sport? Or not against, but do you yourself partake in sports? Do you not think they're good for young men to it's even some of it even problem solving, if you're playing for a team and you're down by points, you have to work out how to win, or it's a way to express yourself on the sports field, it's another way of genius. Are you against them completely, or are you just saying that we just need to be aware of why they're there? I mean, professional sports, etc.
I think the sports are really good for children to develop coordination and develop their neurological systems. But the problem always comes in where you start reading the documented proof that our social engineers and our human farmers decided to take what was always child-based sport and morph it into an adult-based sport in order to sort of disempower the male first and foremost, and kind of give him a new tribal identity. So his old tribal identity of protector of the family and protector of the tribe could be removed. So sport is great for developing athletics, which is developing a well-defined neurological system. But there are clear-cut documents and transcripts that prove, our social engineers, or what Michael Tsarian calls them, the architects of doom, clearly sought out to use sport as something to distract males from their tribal role inside the society, because that was just going to be stolen from them anyway, replaced by the state. And you have to do something with that sort of energy. So it gave the men of the era a tribal identity in, Manchester United or Manchester City, et cetera, et cetera. And you can also see the use of the colors red and blue in just that example. That's another mind control technique where you'll have, you pick a side, but really you're getting the exact same result. I know Manchester United is red, if I'm not correct.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, and Manchester City is blue. It doesn't matter who you cheer for. You're both in the stands. You're both away from your family in most cases. You're both consuming toxic alcohol, and you're both doing things that don't build the foundation of your community. So the red and blue colors represent a very well orchestrated mind control technique against the slave class, which gives them pretend choice, pick red or pick blue, and then you end up both getting the exact same result in your life while believing you're free, which of course you're not.
Yeah, it's a weird one for me, because I played professional rugby until I was about 12. Semi-pro professional until I was about 23, and also I've always been a big sports fan. It's always been something that I've enjoyed watching, doing. I'm a massive Arsenal fan myself. We go and watch games, and I get what you're saying. You can definitely see it like that, but it's something that when you've been brought up with it, and your family's into it, and your friends are into it, the big game's on, and it is something, I suppose, that distracts you from what's going on. But sometimes for me, because of the life I live, it's very similar to yours, always researching, helping people all the time. For me, it becomes something that's quite a good way to relax, in terms of to switch off my brain from doing work, or just because I think if do it all the time. I could sit and work for hours now. Sometimes I even get told, people have a break, relax. It's something that can change my energy. It can just take my mind off a few things, let me relax a little bit. Do you think that's a bad thing, or do you think?
No, I don't think that's a bad thing. Nothing's inherently good or bad, but the average person, what they call relaxing is sedation. And they go from one sedation session to the next sedation session, and there's no break. And we need to remember that one drink of alcohol, like one beer at the pub before the soccer match, or one beer at the soccer match, is being proven to activate your limbic brain for 3 to 6 weeks.
3 to 6 weeks.
And the limbic brain is your fight or flight system. The reason it's activated after an alcohol ingestion is because the fight or flight system is reactionary toward any threat, and alcohol is a threat to the body because it's a poison. And the limbic brain, when activated, is your lowest IQ, emotional-based decision maker, child-based IQ level. And it's violent, irrational, illogical. And that's a benefit to you if you're under threat. But the general threats that the body's designed to deal with were outside threats, like a jaguar, a lion, a snake, tarantula, something like that. So today we're activating our flight or fight systems basically because we're poisoning ourselves en masse. And this is all encouraged as well. It doesn't matter what you look at. It doesn't matter if it's vaccination or having a beer at a soccer match or a Tylenol because you have a headache or caffeine in a coffee, which is one of the most effective ways to activate the limbic system and shut down your true humanity. These modalities of attack are orchestrated against humanity. They're encouraged. And, when you're in your limbic brain, you're going to be nowhere near your full potential. And that's how you rule humans. That's how you get 10,000 people ruling 8 billion people. One of the chapters out of the Ruling Family Handbook is to make sure to constantly throw down poisonous food and water and drink into the slave camp, so they'll never have the IQ levels to figure anything out. Plus, they'll always be hyper violent against each other, and you literally let those hyper polluted and hyper toxic people wipe each other out.
Yeah.
While you just kind of laugh at it from high atop the castle wall.
It's for everyone out there, the limbic system Jason's referring to it's like a reptile brain, which is, as you said before, the lowest. It's fight or flight. Then you've got mammalian brain, which is all about the hierarchy, and then you've got the human brain, which once you're in that, you can actually start making rational decisions. But the limbic, I've talked about this before. If you guess, it's like where you see a football player, or in any American football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, football, someone might tackle them bad, they get up and they might headbutt someone, and they're like, oh my god, he was out of his mind. At that point, he literally was out of his mind. It's as Jason said, it's in the lowest form of IQ. It's just all about fight or flight, having to defend ourselves, defending yourself, and then worrying about the consequences later on for the human brain to deal with. Unfortunately, this is what happens, and then you see it. So you mentioned coffee there and I also. You mentioned quite a few things there. We'll go on. With coffee, I don't think we touched on it a little bit last time, but you said about it turns off the oxygen into your brain for a long period of time. With the limbic system, if you have something like alcohol, because majority of people listening to this, they want to be healthy, they're going to want to understand. And we had a little discussion about this. I think someone about the recent shooting in America. We was on. I think you put a post, and one of my friends had a post about it. You know what? Let's just go for it. Let's get political. Why not? Let's get political. No, so he put a post up about how they should all just take away America's guns, because we've had no shootings, and you've had loads of shootings, etc. Whatever it is, not your Canada, but been much more shootings in America because they got automatic rifles and stuff. And this was a view that I used to have. Take away the guns, and you had the problem. Then you dig a bit deeper, and you realise why you've actually got the guns, or why they've got the guns. The amendment, the rights, it's to stop a tyrannical government. Because once they get the guns, and they got a police state, they can do whatever they want. And a lot of these mass shootings, if you dig a bit deeper, I know people are sitting here thinking, these two are nutcases, but it's funny because the healthiest people I speak to are the ones that they all go down this path and they all see it, and it's almost, as we talked about before, most people aren't even healthy enough to see what's right in front of their eyes. Their brain is swimming in a toxic soup. They're so unhealthy. Their blood's toxic. Their brain doesn't know what's going on, so they can't even see what's right in front of them. And they've got the ignorance, or say the arrogance, to think that they're so intelligent about these things. But when you look at it, when we talk about false flags and some of these events, like Sandy Hook, I think it was, they said the school wasn't even open that day. I think that happened, etc. So these events, like this mass shooting, are they more things to try and keep us fearful, etc.?
I think the point to remember about the school shootings is it doesn't really matter what the truth is. We never get the truth. And there are distraught children in the U.S. more than in any other country. And they're simply ruling others the way they've been being ruled. We will always govern others the way we're governed. That child did violence onto others because violence has been done onto him. And in the United States, there's absolutely no population ruled more tyrannically, other than Australia, of course, than the United States. And there's many ways to destroy children. One is guns. But this child is already being murdered. by our society. His creativity was murdered by the school system. He was vaccine murdered by the medical system. His spirituality was probably murdered by, orthodox religion, conventional religion. This child is dead, and that's why he or other school shooters have turned on the society, because the children reflect what we're doing. And that's why we attack the children like we do with the vaccination, with the vitamin K shot, and we enroll them in a Prussian school system, which is brilliantly described by John Taylor Gatto, to gut the child of any creativity or uniqueness, is because we're intimidated of the children.
100%.
It's because the children, if allowed to develop as the Creator intended, will tell us how insane we are, will tell us how meaningless our lives are, how empty and soulless we have become. So we literally attack the children on every level possible so that we can maintain the illusionary, empty, and soulless existences that we have, so we never have to face our own insanity. And that attack on the child, more so in the U.S. than almost any other country, is reflected in the children. And of course, I have an AR-15 right in a locked case right next to me, not more than 3 feet away. There's a shotgun, there's a 9mm handgun, and a 40 caliber handgun, all locked up according to Canadian law, following the Canadian law to a T on gun ownership and gun storage. It's not the guns that go out and kill people. It's the fact that if you put a child in a toxic soup of attack and poisonous execution by medicine, science, and government, you will have that child absorb all that and become a reflection of the pot of boiling water that the child is boiling to death in. Mm-hmm. And this is what we have to understand, is the child isn't out there killing on their own. It's a reflection of our society. And you go back even further to the documents. There's a document from 1796. It was taken from a courier in Bavaria, which is now Germany. And this was communications between who we know as the Illuminati. And they fully intended to use public display, news and media, the TV being something they would love, and the internet they would love, to drown us in negative role modeling. Because the psychology on this is clear. And I think we've talked about this before, that it's completely proven that humans mimic as their primary form of behavior.
Yeah, 100%. And as you mentioned there, the guns aren't going out and shooting people. It's the people that are doing it. And in states in America that actually have legalized guns, the crime rate and the death rate, I think, is vastly lower in those states than it is in the other ones. I mean, some of the stats, I think, last year from death by a gun or something, I think it was like under a few thousand, maybe 3,000, something like that. And if we compare that to the 250,000 that are killed every year by the right drug for the right problem, medically, where's the big issue here? This is what I'm saying. And nothing's really getting done.
Yet people aren't concerned about child death, because there's 600,000 abortions in the U.S. every year. There's the conventional medical system in the U.S. alone. In 1999, there was a report released in the journal, the New England Journal of Medicine, proving that the conventional medical system in the U.S. is the third leading cause of premature death.
I think it's the first now.
Well, that data, of course, people who understand the agendas know that when medicine comes out to admit that they are the third leading cause of premature death, that there's something afoot. So the data that was used to make that conclusion was reviewed by Dr. Carol Ann Dean and Gary Null, PhD, and they wrote a book called Death by Medicine, which was also made to a documentary by Gary Null, proving conclusively that the medical system itself kills, and this was in the year 2000, so it's worse now, nearly 1 million Americans premature every single year by either medical mistakes, taking the right prescription drug at the right dosage, and the person dying from doing exactly what they were supposed to do, which is the problem, of course. And so people don't care about death. They care about what they're told to care about. They care only about, am I going to say the right thing so that I can get the right rewards inside a society that is like a video game where you tell the right lies, you get the most points.
That's a very good analogy. You tell the right lie. Most people are so scared to say what they think. This is why, I mean, either way, as I mentioned before, this is why someone like Donald Trump gets in, because people are afraid to say what they feel. They toe the party line with their friends, and they go out and they vote the way they feel in their heart, because they're just too scared to say so. And this is why someone mentioned before, like Jordan Peterson coming out and saying what I think a lot of people are thinking. You know, some of this stuff has just gone so far to one way. You know, it's just becoming ridiculous. And people saying that men and women are the same. Men and women will never. I did this before. Men and women are not the same and never will be. Just basic principles of health, etc. Without women, we're done, and they need to be given the respect that they earn. But they're not. So many women are trying to live like a man. Trying to live a life, a man's life, a woman's body causes problems. Now, this what we mentioned there. I think. If you add, this is the thing with the health as well of children. I always say this quite a lot. When does your brain kick in? You know, when, for example, vaccines and autism, etc., etc., etc. Maybe it's not just the vaccines; it's also the glyphosate. It's also everything else that's going on. But it was like one in thousands, and now it's like 1 in 80 gets it. And they reckon, I think Stephanie Seneff thinks by the year 2032, half, if not more than half of the children born will have autism. Now that's a big problem. And what's happened? Well, we know that the water's toxic and the food's toxic. That's been there for a while now for most people. But the vaccination schedule's just gone through the roof. And then you've actually got people like saying that my child was fine, they went for vaccines, and then boom, dead behind the eyes, etc. I always just say to people, like, when are you going to stop believing the science that generally is a lot of times bought and paid for? As Paul Chek says, the scientists are the modern day prostitutes. You know, they can give you whatever result you want. And when you're actually going to start listening to the people that have gone through it and seen their child disappear in front of their eyes, you know, after having a vaccine, I just don't understand where people are coming from. Like, it's right in front of you. When is your brain kick in and you start looking what's right in front of your eyes?
Well, number one, Ryan, you said, when does your brain kick in? I think you just gave a good segue for people to understand why they're inundated with the poison. If you're in the limbic brain, all you're searching for is security, and security will be the right answer, and the right answer is the best lie to tell. So that explains it. Parents aren't looking for the truth. Most parents have no interest in researching vaccination, because vaccination is about what lie they have to tell to get more accepted and get more cozy and cozied up inside the illusion, where you're always going to be given a nice pillow on the jail cell seat, and a nice new carpet on the jail cell floor, and some nice curtains on your jail cell window. That's actually what's happening. They don't care. Most parents are so scared of not giving the right lie-based answer that they'll do anything, including vaccine poisoning their children, even if their previous child was vaccine poisoned and crippled for life. There's a lot of support and promotion and rewards given for dysfunctional children. So the parent as well knows not only will they be stroked in a positive way by the corrupt system for vaccine poisoning their kids. If the child is vaccine injured, he's going to be on the front page of the paper. There's going to be charity drives for the vaccine injured child. Everybody we'll be able to go down and meet all the players down on Manchester United because the kid's in a wheelchair. And this kind of makes the parents say, there's a lot of Hollywood here involved with my sick child. And I'm not vaccinating my child based on the research anyway, so I'm going to roll the dice and do as I'm told to do. I'm going to tell the lie that gets me the best reward. I'm going to pick through those lies, and but I'm going to offer my child up as a human sacrifice to the corrupt system because it benefits me as a parent. Forget my child. My child is simply my currency to spend inside the corrupt system, and for me to get safety, I got to give 20 quid or couple pence of the child's soul to the corrupt system, and then I buy my way deeper into it. Maybe I'll get a promotion at the hospital when all my kids are vaccinated. Maybe I'll be able to get that job at the university or at the public school because I'm vaccinated, and I really want to work myself into this corrupt system, and forget the research.
I mean, this is something that. This is why I do these shows, Jason, just to try and get people, to give them the truth. I mean, you're always going to have people that are going to come out against you. I've had it before. I'm just on speaking my truth. And I can help one person, two people, or hundreds, or thousands, or whatever. Perfect. But I just want to get the truth out to people, and I just feel like, health was never created by taking poison. It's just madness to me. And I put up an article this week because Daily Mail said it. It came out and it said, Daily Mail, processed foods are driving up cancer rates. And I put up a post saying, what is this, the obvious game? This is all like, of course, they're only like a couple of decades behind. I got a lot of love from it, a lot of love. Then I had one lady saying, of course, it's common sense. And I said, this is the problem. Like, it's not just the food, but it's this, and that. And then I said, you've got people giving their hard-earned money. These people with massively big hearts going out and giving these cancer charities, like cancer research, their hard-earned money. And they're only looking for medical cures. And then she came out and said, well, you've lost my respect now, Ryan. Cancer's not a westernised disease. And these researchers aren't in on a scam. They've helped thousands of people, etc. And I said, well, I'm going to say Cancer Research UK. They're not just part of the problem; they are the problem. When this first war on cancer was given, it was like 1 in 80 that had it, and now it's 1 in 2. Once again, when did you break again? The millions or billions of pounds and dollars that we've spent on this have got us nowhere. I would say cancer isn't a death sentence. It's your body crying out for help, and as you living outside the laws of nature, you start living, putting things right. Your body can heal from it. But I don't know, being called. I said, look, if me speaking the truth means I'm dangerous, it might always made me think of Top Gun. I am dangerous. So that's fine. I'm happy. So you also said you haven't got a medical degree, so maybe you should go and get one before you can start saying this. I was like, oh, okay. So my 50 whatever hours of talking to the best people around the world, forget like all the other hundreds of books I've read and the other tens of thousands of hours of research I've done, they mean nothing because I haven't done a medical degree and studied what they've told me to study. I've actually used my brain, gone out there and done studies independently and spoke to people independently to get the best knowledge possible, not just learn what a syllabus has told me to learn. And that's why doctors come to me, and I'm sure they come to you, Jason, to help, not the other way around. So, I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way about this. I mean, there are some great charities out there doing some great work, but the mainstream ones.
Oh, there's not.
There's not. Well, there's a couple of independent ones, I think. But you if you don't.
Well, what you have to understand about that lady, Ryan, is she's giving the right answer. So it's what we fight in the truth movement is laziness and stupidity. That's what the truth movement fights every day: laziness and stupidity. And she's giving the lazy way out because she's not thinking. She gives the right answer, that she tells the best lie that she can tell in the smallest amount of time to get the biggest reward from everybody else who's kind of a sheep maybe on the page at that time. And dropping your money off at a charity and hoping they solve your problems or the problems of the society is now called slacktivism. It's being slack. It's being lazy. It's like, I'm going to drop my kid off at the school. I'm going to drop my health off at the doctor's office. I'm going to drop my money off at the charity organization. They're going to solve all my problems. I'm going to pick everybody up at 5 after working that job I hate, and the world's going to fix itself. I'm not going to take any personal responsibility for my own health. And the charities, of course, are the actual article that you're talking about is there purposely, like Michael Tessarian says, it's like barking behind the fence. They'll let the dog bark all day behind the fence, knowing it's behind the fence. It's got no problem. So that article is intended to give the slacktivists, the average person, the impression that the problems are being taken care of and that headway is being made. So the average person reads it and says, oh, great, they're finally catching on. It's for all the truthers out there to say, oh, yeah, maybe we're winning. No, well, not. That's what it's for, to give us the illusion that there's some kind of headway. The person opens the newspaper, they're having their coffee and their bagel, that are handpicked by the ruling elite to dumb down their brain and put them in the limbic brain. And they fold up the papers thinking, oh, things are going great. We're evolving. They're starting to recognize that food causes cancer. They're not doing anything of the sort. They're turning up the volume to 11 on all the toxins. Anybody going into the medical system is already a dead man walking. They just don't know it yet. And for the lady to say to you, you're not a doctor, all she's saying is, I take my orders from doctors only. I refuse to think on my own. I outsource my thinking to medical authority, and I'm going to march lockstep with the rest of the lemmings right off the cliff's edge if the doctor said so. So what she's really saying to you is she refuses to think independent of authority, meaning she's simply the byproduct of the school system that John Taylor Gatto describes in his book, Weapons of Mass Instruction. And if you go back further, you'll understand that's exactly why the school system was invented. The school system was invented to produce this drone bot compliant order taker, one with the drone bot army, one with the Borg, taking her orders. If they told her she had to take 4 vaccines in a winter season, all designed to kill her and euthanize her, she would do it. And they're really working hard toward that.
Yeah, they are.
So that as many people get killed as possible. Anybody inept enough to believe that poison is going to make them healthy, the ruling elite really are speeding up the euthanization of those people, because you can't produce a population this stupid in perpetuity. It's impossible. So right now you have the peak of stupidity. And that's why the vaccines are becoming more numerous and more toxic as they become more numerous, because the ruling elite really have to take advantage in the next 10 years of this herd of the most stupid humans ever to walk the earth, including the medical doctors who are starting to wake up as well. I mean, a medical doctor is the sort of person that hands out poison, but also is mind controlled to the point where they can't even realize none of their patients are getting healthier under their tutelage. This kind of stupidity on both sides has to be taken advantage of.
Well, the thing is as well, it's because they're backed by law at the time. It's just saying that the 1939 Cancer Act and things like that, they're backed by law. This is the other thing we mentioned about these charities, right? If you look into the research about how much they pay, like the CEOs, etc., you think, where's your money going? Even come out the other day about Oxfam, but one of my friends put on the post that when he put up was like, she said, I'd call you dangerous, to the lady. Not a penny of this research goes into nutrition or educating cancer prevention. Most cancers are well known to be easily prevented with diet and lifestyle changes. He said, being the front line defence for the crazy drug companies and their search for a magic bullet cure, maybe you need to wake up and see that by backing this money making machine, you're part of the problem. And I was like, boom, there you go, because you don't. This is the thing, like, it's almost like I said the other day, like, when I put on the post, but they wouldn't be able to sell it to us if it was bad for us, right? Like, these people honestly believe that the government's got our best interests at heart, and that's a lot of the time the problem.
That's their first problem.
Yeah,
that's their first problem, because they don't understand that the government isn't the government. That would shock a lot of people, that they're simply facades of the same ruling family. Canada isn't any different and run by different people than Australia, than the UK, than the United States. And this is what I've said before. This is what the Olympics are for. This is what the different flags are for, is to constantly inundate the uninformed public with ideas that everybody's different. The countries are all run by different people, and the will of the people, controls that small group at the top. It's the ruling family, agenda to make everybody think there's these different countries, and there's not.
Yeah,
they're all the same, and there's many benefits to the Olympics and the flag waving. One is, if you think you're different, if you think you're different than someone in the Middle East, which is ruled by the same rule. They're not trying to take over the Middle East. They already have taken it over a long time ago. The reason they still maintain the facade of the different country names is just that some poor bastard over there in the UK thinks he's going to go fight some guy over in Syria, and he's going to kill each other off. And again, that's an agenda I talk about before, is the agenda of the ruling families to eliminate the strong males. Because historically, the ruling families have only had one opponent that could ever defeat them, which was be strong and moral males. So they sat together one day and said, look, we could these are our main adversaries, strong males across the earth. How are we going to eliminate these strong males? And one of them said, look, why don't we give fake freedoms to all our colonies? And then we'll use things like the Olympics and the flag waving and the World Cup to make people really think they're different. And then what we'll do is we'll start wars between them on a consistent basis, and we'll only send the strongest males to obliterate each other, eventually leaving a thick, concentrated soup of beta males and fearful females.
It's hard to believe for a lot of people this, because it's almost like hard to believe that people can be like that to try and control things, and especially as well because you go and you watch a World Cup, Olympics. There's so much good energy there. People all smiling, they're all happy. Like the flag, if someone wins a medal, everyone's cheering, and we go and watch the World Cup, and people from different backgrounds and different countries are actually getting on a lot of the time, So in the world, they can be very good events energetically, but the background to them, or the underlying sort of reason they're there, is for this making people think they're different, etc. And us versus them. But this is one that I don't know if you, for example, us coming out of the EU, which is something that. I voted out for my own reasons, which were because of this. Nothing to do with migration or anything like that. It's because I didn't want a one-world government. I'm not interested in that. I don't know, believe in that police state, and they can just do whatever they want. And the EU, when it comes to food, they're actually poisoning the food so much. They're making certain supplements you can't get. They're actually diluting the supplement strength for certain things. So there's lots of stuff to go, and I just didn't want us to be under that umbrella. That's why I voted like that. Very different reasons to a lot of people. And it's hard because, I know you say it's all an illusion, and it is all an illusion, I suppose, but it's hard for a lot of people to take that in. and it's, especially when you go through it, there's so many different areas of it, and once you actually see, I mean, there's not that many people that are awake to it all, and that's the problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're healthy and outside the limbic brain, this stuff isn't hard to understand.
No.
And that's the plain and simple truth of it. This is why they're at the kids right away with the toxic vitamin K, with the toxic vaccines. They're making sure the mother has the pressure to go out and work and leave the child alone with the formula feeding and the toxic food. The woman can't breastfeed. And of course, the broken family, that is a very predictable symptom of a society that sells sex as pleasure and not sex as love union. It's because if you create a society with negative media role modelings around sex as pleasure, all you will have is broken homes, because you will always have sexual conquest happening outside the marriage. And this is why Alfred Kinsey, a UK, I don't even know what to call him, I'll say psychopath, he was employed in the 1950s to go around to all the Commonwealth nations and initiate sex ed classes inside the public school system, which again shows that there's no difference in the countries, because Alfred Kinsey was able to initiate these perverted and inverted sex ed changes into all Commonwealth and former Commonwealth schools at the wave of a hand. And you'll notice there is no love ed in school. You will notice there is no love as union. There was no marriage education, because once you teach children that sex is just sex and sex is pleasure, you will have the destruction of the family unit, which allows, again, a quicker throwing down of humanity down the evolutionary ladder. And this, of course, is the planned agenda. The single mother, the hedonistic father, now the hedonistic female. No one's looking out for the kids, but that was always the goal. Someone's looking for the kids, and it is the state. And it is not the state. It is the ruling families of ancient times who understand the fine details of ruling lobotomized, toxic, and uninformed people. And they're really sick of a lot of that slave camp, because they're really trying to get rid of them. I'm not too sure the exact history. You can go to authors like Graham Hancock and Michael Tessarian, but these people are not who they say they are. Nothing works the way you think it does.
Yeah, I agree with it 100%, and especially what you're saying there. I mean, the family unit is something brilliant with it, family union, and now you've got modern family where it's like you've got stepmoms and stepdads everywhere, and half brothers, half sisters everywhere. Relationships are hard, and especially in today's modern society, where, as you say, there's so many things going on, they are hard. And now people can just go on an app and just flick right or flick left, and they can have someone else's sexual partner there very, very quickly. It's the whole point of it, right? But it's the nuclear family is something that has been lots of. If you look at back in the day, even the wholesome American sort of programs, like what's that one, John Boy and stuff like that. I can't remember what it's called.
The Waltons.
The Waltons, yeah. It's the nuclear family. It's a big thing, but traditionally, family's been a huge part, and now it seems there's not many people I know that have just got a family. There's always like divorce. I think in America, the average marriage lasts 2 years. That's a terrible statistic. And you're talking about the children here. There's something I wanted to get into you with. I don't know. I wanted to talk about with you was because we talked about vaccinations. We talked about poisonous food, things like coffee, alcohol, etc. One of the things that they do to kids straight off the bat now is circumcision. And one of the things they're giving lots of the women these days, they take the pill. Now, my clients, I always tell them straight away, look, I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't give you medical advice. But what I can say is if it was my girlfriend, or if it was my mum, or if it was my sister, they would not be taking that. And I link them to lots of articles talking about how dangerous the pill is. Just if you want to increase your risk of getting any sort of cancer or disease, then you take the pill. I mean, I know you feel quite strongly about this as well.
Well, the pill has a whole host of side effects, all of which have been purposely coordinated as an attack on the female. Whatever side effect you get from the birth control pill, it is not a misunderstanding of the science. It's not a chance happening. It's not like they didn't know. It was designed for that effect. It's designed to give cancer. It's designed to promote sexual activity as pleasure so that children are conceived unwanted. And once you have unwanted children, you're going to have a lot of them. There's no planning, right? There's no long-term thinking. Of course, the medical toxins inside the birth control activate the limbic brain. The limbic brain is already overly sexual. It's violent. It's a short-term thinker, and it makes decisions based on emotion. This is why the birth control pill has been proven for you to pick Mr. Wrong. It interferes with optimal mate selection because of the emotional component that's active in the limbic brain. The limbic brain will not pick a partner based on rational thought. The limbic brain will pick, something that emotionally excites the woman. And if that's the opposite of thinking through who you're going to be living your life with, or thinking through how many kids you want, or how you're going to afford the child to make, or are you going to, non-vaccinate? How are you going to get around that in a society that sacrifices children as regular blood ritual? The birth control pill as well, a lot of people have been lied to, is that it doesn't stop the egg from coming down into the uterus. It actually allows the egg to fall and thins the uterine lining to the point where a fertilized egg cannot attach. Most women don't know, if they're having regular sex on the pill, that they're having an abortion every single month of a live fetus. They don't understand that because the public have been lied to so much. And there's a reason why the pill is designed to provide a full live abortion every month, every 30 days, is because our ancient human farmers think that there's an energy magic involved with the sacrifice of children, of live fetuses. There's so many layers to this. Picking Mr. Wrong, of course, the birth control pill is famous for causing cancer. And if you pick Mr. Wrong, the destruction of the family is almost a guarantee, because you're going to be picking that machismo, short-term thinker as well. And of course, when two short-term thinkers in the limbic brain start having sex and thinking this sex is awesome, let's get married because I'm addicted to pleasure, you're going to create a chaotic society that produces children like the school shooter.
Yep.
Unwanted children that are not planned for. And if the average person is told, my body, my choice, and the woman thinks, oh, it's my body, I can kill this child if I want to. And if they believe that, but still have the child, the person's like, oh, you're lucky I even had you, kid. I can do anything I want with you. It's all about extinguishing love as an energetic force from the entire planet. Love is a thing. And the way we're leading our lives, we're just extinguishing love and vaporizing it and sending it off planet to where nothing of love, of a loving nature, evolves, is allowed here on our planet. These are deeper issues, and this is why we're in huge trouble, because the average person just thinks, I'm just going to pop the pill in my mouth, lie down on my back, and I'm going to have the best life possible. I'm going to have sex all the time. This is going to be awesome. It doesn't work like that. It's energy sorcery, energy magic, dark occult black magic ritual is what it is. And the average person thinks it only occurs on the screen, the Harry Potter. which it does not.
Well, I would say a lot of these things in Hollywood, they're actually showing you what's coming, or what they, and people laugh. Like, there's so many things, even these films, you go into them, there's so many little subtle things that you don't realise they're showing you. The next the big thing that I'm worried about is AI. You know, this. It makes me pretty scared when I look into some of the things they're doing with these robots, etc. And you're talking about there having like a children that are, my parents says, I can do whatever I want with your kids. You're lucky I even had you. Like, there's so many things going on with that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Then you got a kid who's unloved, who grows up. I mean, now you've seen 5-year-old kids on antidepressants. They're found that they've like committed suicide because they've been on antidepressants. A 5-year-old kid. I mean, when I first heard the story, once telling me, I was almost in tears. I was just like, this is shocking, and this is happening all over. Like, kids on medication, and everyone thinks that their disease or their illness is unique. It's like, it's not unique. It's the body at dis-ease. Once you start living a healthy life, these things can't live in the body. And it's like, people need to understand, you haven't got a unique disease. The way you heal anything is the way you heal everything, with a few subtle differences. But you know, you have introspection, you have love, you eat the right foods, you get the right exercise. The other thing we talk about, doctor. Doctor means teacher, right? The word teacher. But when was the last time a doctor taught you anything? This is what we're doing here.
A doctor means the one in control. The word doctor comes from doctor. It's a maritime phrase meaning the one who's in control of the dock. Docked or. Okay. So for your oar to come into the dock, you would need to please and pay the person who controls your access to the land. And that's why, you know, when a child is born, they call it the birth canal and the birth certificate. It's the same thing as ancient maritime admiralty law. So these sort of things are all tied to the ancient seafaring Phoenicians, who are the ones pulling the wool over our eyes perpetually in our society with their fake pieces of paper, their certificates. Certificate. Sir meaning serpent. Serpent meaning the man of knowledge.
I need to look into that, because I've always seen doctor derived from the Latin word doco, which means to teach. But the word teacher also.
And the teacher is the one who's in control of what you think.
I see
right?
what you're saying. Okay.
It can be derived many different ways.
I understand.
That's why they call it the citizenship, because you're sailing in. It's a ship. And it's sit as sin. Sit as sin. You sit on the dock. It's a form of sin because you're doing nothing with your life. Sit as sinship. Okay? There's all kinds of hidden meanings in the words. And these people make up these words because they think it energetically attacks you without your knowledge. And they're also known to mock their victims before they kill them.
Well, Jason, it's very interesting that, because lots of people, I mean, it's weird. These people that know the most about energy and how it affects, you said, like child sacrifice, look at things like that. I mean, so weird are the ones that then teach a medical system that doesn't believe in the metaphysical or energy. You know, the ancient Chinese medicines do, and then you look at that Vedic medicine. You go into it. There was a discussion with someone the other day when she was saying that men and women aren't different, and I was like, have you ever heard of yin and yang? You know, like the earth, the night and day, the sun and the moon, they're all very different energies, and energy does exist, and it's why no study in the world has ever been able to tell us what love is. But we know what love is. I mean, we experience it, and if you lose someone or if you go through heartbreak, there's nothing worse than that, and there's no test in the world that's ever been done that can tell you what love is. And so these people know about the energy and know how important it is, but they teach a medical system that doesn't believe in it. It calls it all quackery and all hoo-ha and all stuff like that, and they know.
And the energy we're talking about, you said earlier about the sports stadium, feels quite good, and it's a good emotional energy. They're energy magicians. So what they do is they know how to rise your energy up and put it into a big ball, but they can sharpen that ball into a sword, and they can use the energy as a weapon without you even knowing it. It's sort of like in the America, where they have everybody in the stadium, they might have 2 billion people watching or a billion people watching the Super Bowl, and they drive, the fighter jets over the stadium, and everybody's wearing flags, and they have a handicapped veteran come in on a wheelchair, and everybody cheers. They're hijacking your energy by associating war with the sport you like. And so every time you think of war, you sport, war, sport, war, sport, war. You like sports, you like war. And that's how it works in the head. So you have to know, they know what they're doing with your energy. And it's invisible. Like the E in energy that starts the word energy is the same E that starts emotion or electricity. E is the invisible force called the ether. And they know how to work with the ether. Like emotion means electricity in motion, but electricity is invisible to you, but not invisible to them. And they know how to harness it, they know how to can it, and they know how to sell it, and they know how to weaponize it. So every time you release energy, they know how to really corral that and put it in the direction they want. That's what they did on 9/11. After blowing their own buildings up and killing their own citizens, they raised a massive revenge energy and forwarded it to the Middle East that had nothing to do with the US, UK, and Israel-based implosions of those buildings.
I mean, look, some people will be like, some people might have just heard that and says, well, they didn't do that. That was the Al-Qaeda. We know the right answer, where you're not going to be attacked. We already know the right lie. Yeah, we already know the right lie.
So thanks. So thanks very much for saying the right lie and dropping your brain off at the garbage dump and getting back down to the coffee shop and the pub. But that's not what happened.
But people would be like, well, why would they do that? Why would it's like the government, especially America, or all who say they've been doing things like this for years. I mean, they sunk their own ships to get into world wars. I mean, they gave syphilis to black slaves. I mean, I'll go on and on.
But that's not the right answer, right? So you have the average human who is obsessed with nothing but the right lie, so that they can walk out of their house, not be attacked. And if the right lie is getting their kid vaccinated, that's what they do that day. Yeah. If the right lie is dropping off a $5 donation and eating a donut to raise money for cancer, they're going to do that. They get a lubricated and unharassed walk through the corrupt ruling pyramid by saying the right lie. It's like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. It's like the cave that opened with the right password. Okay, the right password for vaccinations is Andrew Wakefield and Jenny McCarthy, and then you get showered with praise because you're a moron, and you think Andrew Wakefield's a liar, which he isn't, and Jenny McCarthy's a slut. Like, and that's how you're supposed to live your life, just on the surface, telling the right lies at the right time. There's a psychologist, a psychotherapist in Los Angeles, whose sole practice is recording the psychiatry sessions and then giving it to the patient on the way out, and having the patient write down how many lies they told themselves inside the session. And it's one of the most successful psychotherapies ever developed.
What's his name?
I'll get his name. Michael Tessera talked about him on a recent podcast. And because there is part of everybody that knows they're a chronic bullshitter. And if you can bring that person out into the open with the other part of the personality, sometimes they can have a conversation and understand why their life is going in the ditch, going in the garbage. And the lies people tell themselves today, they can't even sort through them. They're so numerous. It's so numerous, and it starts with, if you want to sort through your own liarrhea and get to the core of
liarrhea,
and get to the core of your soul, first thing you got to do is shut your limbic brain off, which means you got to get out of the pub. You got to stop poisoning yourself with medications. You got to stop eating junk food and thinking, every stupid phrase in the world is your battle flag. You got to live right. One piece of cake won't hurt you. All these moronic battle cries of the saboteur.
Everything in moderation.
Oh, everything in moderation. Anybody that says that does absolutely nothing in moderation except think.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's the battle cry of the permanent childhood, of the adult that, acting as a child, the child with pubic hair is what I call them. The 50-year-old down at the pub who's getting the dragon tattoo down their back, who thinks that, something else is going to make them feel good about their life. Mm. And we run into so many people like that every day. The first step to cutting through that minutia is getting healthy, because your healthy mind won't stand for your moronic activity if you can get up into the human brain shell, which is basically a 6-inch visit from the back of your skull to the front of your skull. But you don't need to understand any of this, or you won't even understand any of this unless you stop polluting yourself. Good luck trying to understand it from the lowest IQ portion of your mind, which is the limbic system. And it's the limbic system that gets turned on with coffee, alcohol, junk food, medications, fluoride toothpaste, vitamin K shot. You're not going to have a brain to think with.
100%. And I know you've got to go in a minute. We could sit here for 2 more hours, I think, like a Joe Rogan podcast, and just keep on going. But just for people out there, should we leave it till next time, or should we do it now? Should we cover circumcision?
We got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm about to say, because this is another one. Circumcision. I know it's really big in America. I don't know how big it is in Canada. In America, I know it's huge, and there's this thing like, if you've got a foreskin, it's almost like girls look at guys weird with foreskin, and a lot of religions take away the foreskin. I mean, I myself, I'm not circumcised. It's a weird one. People say it's cleaner. To me, it's the dumbest thing in the world. Cleaner? Or if you get in the shower, you know how to use a bar of soap. You're never going to be dirty. It's people that are unclean are always going to be unclean. Doesn't matter what you do.
It's the lie. It's the lie that goes along with circumcision. It's the best lie, right? It's the best lie you can tell to mutilate your own child. And of course, if you had a woman had a urinary tract infection, no one cuts out her bladder and her urethra to avoid her from getting infections. Yeah. And when's the last time you were at work and you said, "Where's Jim today?" And they said, "Well, Jim has another penis infection because he's not circumcised. Yeah. He's missing another day of work." You never hear that because it's complete and utter bullshit. The reason that circumcision is done, and it's done mostly in America and in Israel, because circumcision is an ancient cult ritual by which you stunt the growth of the brain by driving pain up the spinal cord through the nerve plexus of the penis, which acts as a lightning rod. It's the most sensory equipped organ on the body. So you literally perform brain surgery on the innocent child, breaking the bond between parent and child, which makes them prone to be like a feast for the occult state, religion, and corporations if it's not bonded with the parents. And it sends an electrical charge of pain energy so intense that it actually damages the brain and lowers IQ, and then gives the child a permanent PTSD. And the permanent PTSD is permanent activation of the limbic system.
Right.
And the reason it's being done in the U.S. is because the energy farming of that violence is what the UK royal families want as their assassination wing. So the UK royals have always needed an assassination and bullying arm of their tyrannical rule. They know that if you circumcise males, they become extremely violent, but they become also extremely obedient to authority, which makes America the perfect hitman for the royal family's ongoing empire expansion across the world. And that's why the U.S. is always sent over with their most mentally unstable, strong males, okay, to literally destroy someone else's strong males. And it's that violent energy that these energy sorcerers count on, so that there's never a deficit. There's always a lineup of these violent males wanting to go to war. And that's why in the States, it's like 90%. In Canada, it's 20%. In the UK, it's even lower. In Israel, I think it's really high too, might be close to the 90%, because the men there are also conditioned to be hyper violent, brain damaged, and not that they're born like that. Circumcision is proven to do that. There's many studies that show circumcision makes men hate women. It makes men sexually confused. It makes men hyper violent, but also compliant to authority. Circumcision is ancient black magic occult ritual to actually produce a huge army of reflexively obedient, hyper-violent slaves that can be used for war.
I mean, you touched on so many things there, and I completely agree. People need to go and do their own research on this. I mean, just look at it. I think I've seen a study saying that circumcision, actually, as you said there, it's so sensitive, it cuts off 20,000 of the 28,000 total penile nerve endings. And, you know, for me, I just look at it and say, it's there for a reason, right? I don't see people going and getting all their toenails and fingernails pulled off so they can clean underneath them. You know, it's just ridiculous. You know, you've got the foreskin there for a reason. All animals in nature, they have them, they get cut off. It's just, at what point do you think the human body's not developed right, or that it's stupid? It's like, this is the one thing that the medical industry cracks me up and all these things. It's like, the body isn't stupid. You cut it, it heals. You know, it's like it is for a reason. There's what it's like. We are who we are, or our body's there for a reason. So it's really interesting.
There's many right lies, and that if we can get beyond that, if we can start thinking instead of always being in a hurry to table the right lie to the right person at the right time, so that we get a smile or we get a job. Or if we, no one's judging what they say on morality anymore. It's just like, what lie do I have to tell 100%. In order for me to get a stroke and avoid attack?
This is one of the other things, Jordan Peterson. You said that about. I know you've got to go, but we're gonna end on this. You said about just not saying the right lie. He actually had a video. I actually watched it, I think the other day, and he was saying, I heard myself speaking. It was almost like I was watching myself, and I realised that 95% of the things I was saying weren't. We don't believe that. That's not your opinion. That's not the truth. And he said, I just stopped doing it, and that was one of the big things. That I stopped saying things that were making me weak, and I stopped saying the things that were my truth. And that's why I'm happy to get you on, Jason, and people like yourself to talk. Because it also, he did another test. I don't know if you saw this test where they put everyone in the room. And they had pictures of these lines.
It's called the Ash conformity test.
Right. I think you might have posted it as well, the Ash conformity test. Yes. Yeah. And people were more likely to go along with whatever everyone else said, even if it was wrong, if they were on their own. One other person speaking the truth, they were more likely to put down what they believed as the truth. And this is why it's so important for people like yourself to get on and speak the truth. So more and more people feel that they're not alone with this, and they can actually speak their truth. I think it's really important.
And people should realize it takes a lot of energy, because that's why most people are lying in the first place.
It's easy, right?
It's because they want to avoid attack. So when people like myself come up, understand that we're not going to be around forever. We might have a decade or 2 decades of life in us, because as we speak the truth, we are constantly attacked by the people who don't want to be reminded that all they do is lie for a living, and that they're living immoral lives and unethical lives. So try to learn from people like myself and other truth tellers, because you're going to have to walk the path by yourself. We're not going to be there to take your hand and walk you a mile down the road. Eventually, I'm going to get off this path, because I mean, there's a lot of other things I'd like to be doing other than this. It is my calling to do it, and I'm going to do it for as long as I can. But if everybody started to stop being so goddamn lazy and reaching for the most convenient lie to justify their immoral behavior, we could change this system a little bit.
100%, and I know I feel the same. There's always, you've got to have an end game, there's ways to get out, and etc. Because you need to be your own peace of mind. But I think no matter what you do, Jason, I think you're always going to be carrying the truth around with you, you know. But it's been brilliant talking to you, Jason. I'm going to let you go because I know you're busy, and I'm sure we'll get you back on at a later date.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Ryan. I hope the people learn a little bit from what we talked about.
No worries, mate. Brilliant. Speak to you soon, mate.
Okay.
So, guys, that was Jason Christoph, and I'm sure you can, I'm sure you'll say that was a hell of an interview. I like to say it's an instant classic. We dived in deep there, and I know I'll be getting Jason back on because we can go even deeper into these things. This is for true awakening, and you know, being a part of the natural health world, it's one of those things you dig down the rabbit hole and then you just realise how deep it actually goes and what's at play here. And I mean, as you say, you like to be called conspiracy theorists, whatever. Yeah, that doesn't bother me because I'll just be happy to get the truth out to people. Because this is all. Why do you think they're polluting your food and the water, etc., etc.? It is what it is. But it's a fantastic interview there with Jason, and I hope you all got something from it. And I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on it. Because as I say, don't just listen to us. Go do the research for yourself because you'll find some interesting stuff. So yeah, that was the interview with Jason Christoph, and as I said before, you can find him at jasonchristoph.com. So anyway, guys, that's it for this week's show. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy. Oh, and also before I do go, any of you dealing with a chronic health issue, www.reviveyourself.co. Try out our free 4-day Gut Revival mini course. We've been having some great reviews and feedback on that. It's going to really help you out. And if you have got a further health issue, then you can just send me an email at ryan@reviveyourself.co, and we can look into how and if we can help you. Okay, guys? So, as I said before, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll speak to you soon.
If you're struggling with gut issues, such as gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, and want to finally be able to eat the foods you love without the crippling after effects, then don't forget to head over to reviveyourself.co and pick up your free copy of The Healing Health Paradigm today.